I was in my local branch library. I like that, calling it a branch, with its leaves and its books. And that makes the entire system a tree, and I like thinking of the library that way, as a huge tree, a living thing. Anyway, there was a big barrel in the lobby of the branch library, and it was filled with books people had brought and dropped into the barrel so that other people might have them and read them for free. I glanced into the barrel and I noticed some very handsome paperback books, a set of novels by Kurt Vonnegut. I picked them up, 3 or 4, saw they were his early sci-fi books, and I decided no, and I was putting them back when I noticed another volume that had been beneath them. It was another Vonnegut paperback, published late in his life, entitled Fate's Worse Than Death. I put the novels back and I took the other book home. It's a collection of pieces he wrote for certain occasions. He called it an autobiographical collage. While I found it eminently readable, it didn't reveal much that I didn't already know. 2 of its main concerns were mental illness and the horrors of war, so the humor contained in it was bound to be dark. Vonnegut wrote that his mother was mentally ill, and his son spent time in a mental hospital, as he did also during the 1980s. As for the war, much of that relates to, or should I say originates from, his experience in Dresden when it was firebombed by Americans and the British when he was a prisoner of war. Vonnegut calls himself an old poop and also an atheist, but it's clear that he is a man of considerable, if not theistic, faith and hope as well. This book is something of a record of his candle of hope for mankind dimming and even sputtering out, because he can't pretend not to see what he sees, and what he sees is not good. Humanity, in his view, does seem intent, however deliberately or inadvertently, in destroying themselves and the planet as well, making a thorough job of it. The title of this book is an index of this, I think. Fate's Worse Than Death are the lives we all lead. He writes a good deal about his father, who had to live with his crazy wife and see his promising career as an architect destroyed by the Great Depression. Death, you see, is an end to suffering, whereas people's lives, as the Buddha would tell you, are full of suffering. So life, in its quirky and utterly inexplicable way, is a fate worse than death. Sometimes we can see this all too clearly. Other times it doesn't seem so bad. We may even seem bright and sunny. Just wait, Vonnegut would say. Just wait. Give it time. Time inflicts all wounds. In this book, Vonnegut proved himself to be, for what it's worth, the master of parentheses. Never have I seen so many parentheses. He begins many of these pieces with a parenthetical remark and ends them with another, and in between the writing is stuffed with parentheses. They are by way of being explanations, suppositions, examples, anecdotes, sallies, chuckles, quips, asides, apologies, etc. He creates a kind of subterranean symphony out of parenthetical remarks. I want to thank Kurt Vonnegut for an essay he wrote on the First Amendment. In it, he said that under this amendment, all of the people in our society would agree to debate on any topic, freely disagreeing, but all we could contribute were opinions. It was agreed that no one would have access to the out-and-out truth on any matter. It was like, he said, removing the aces from a deck of cards. Our thoughts can be kings and queens, or 2s and 5, but by common agreement, no aces. Only God could play an ace. So, in America, he said, no one is playing with a full deck. I have always loved that. And I want to thank him for Slaughterhouse-5, The Children's Crusade. I've read it many times. I know he had to dig way down to produce it, and the book reflects that effort, even though the book doesn't show it. I'm grateful to him for being in a slaughterhouse during the firebombing of a city, an attack which accomplished nothing except the destruction of that city, the deaths of many thousands of people, and the production of one book. As Vonnegut would say, pooty wheat. And now I have to return his book to the barrel in the lobby of my branch library.